Very official good morning to those who are tuning in from Europe, and then good afternoon to those who are in Asia. Thank you very much for joining us today for the next 2 hours for the session on design for recycling, state of play, guidelines, and options for action. I hope you can hear me okay. Okay. My name is Sarah. I'm the PR and KM coordinator for the CAPC project based in Thailand. Together with me is my colleague Gita, who's based in Indonesia. I will be your moderator for the day, and then my colleague will be the co-moderator. Before we start, again, we have translation. Please look in the chat. Okay, we have some information provided in case you missed our announcement earlier. And this session is being recorded. It will be later on uploaded on YouTube in case you would like to share it to your colleagues later on. Okay, and then all the presentation will also be available for you for download. So sit back, relax, and then listen to the next 2 hours that you'll be with us today. Okay, so this is our program for today. We have speakers from 5 speakers ranging from producers to the central agency an institution in Germany to Southeast Asian speakers, okay, who will give different perspectives on the issue of design for recycling. Thank you again, the speakers, for spending time with us today and then sharing your knowledge and experience to all the audience. Actually, we have, I think, 200 people signed up for this event, and then coming from, I think, more than 20 countries around the world. That's also highlight how this topic is very popular for, and then concern all the countries. Okay. And now, as the first speaker is Mr. Christopher Brick, I would like Chris, okay, for short, to come and then tell us a little bit about this activity, this knowledge sharing that we have today. It is part of CAPC project, right? So if you're ready, please.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and also a very warm welcome, good morning and good afternoon to all of you. My name is Christopher Brick. I'm with GIZ based in Thailand, and I'm heading the project CAPC, Collaborative Action for the Prevention of Single-Use Plastics in Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Before we start, and I want to keep it very, very short because we have a packed schedule with fantastic speakers. And first and foremost, thank you very much for making the time and joining this dialogue series. It is an integral part of our project with the objective to prevent single-use plastics and prepare for reuse and support the implementation of single-use plastic prevention policies. As you can see, this project is funded by the German Federal Ministry for the Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, for short BMU. We run until March 23, so we still have a good year ahead of us, and we implement activities in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Next slide, please. And you can see here a graph that most of you will probably be familiar with by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation in terms of the ambition for a circular plastics economy. And what is relevant in this graph, of course, is that we have a very dominant recycling market with also the topics here of design and production, the user, and the reuse cycle that you also see in this graph. Next slide, please. And here you will see the interventions that CAPC project does together with our partners in Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. We work in all countries on advising for a circular economy policy framework, and this includes work on regulatory, economic, and fiscal measures that countries can take. We work on material and product-related standards and guidelines. So on the question of recycled content targets, we had our first dialogue series just 1 month ago. And today we talk about another upstream measure, which is design for recycling or design for recyclability. We also work on single-use plastic prevention policies at the local level and support municipalities in Shah Alam in Malaysia, Phuket in Indonesia, and Jakarta Phuket in Thailand and Jakarta in Indonesia in developing concrete policies and action plans for what a city and a municipality can do. Next slide, please.
Chris, 1 second. I think we hear some wind. I'm not sure if it's from you.
I think it's Nick from TEI. Thank you. Thank you for muting your microphone. Yes. Okay, great. And today is really to hear from the practitioners. The objective of this dialogue series is to bring together experts and practitioners, so not only advisors and governance and government representatives, but also from the private sector and from organizations such as the German Central Packaging Register, which for the EPR framework in Germany is a very central institution. And I'm very much looking forward to this presentation on the rather complex topic that we are dealing with. And yeah, to bring together these experts and see how these policies actually can play out in the implementation in real life from the different perspectives. So for this, we also then offer to our political partners and the implementation partners a more in-depth workshop afterwards to really look at the measures that can be taken on the national level. But for today, I'm very much looking forward to hear the presentations. And without further ado, I would like to hand over to Koen Suppot from Dow Chemicals for the first presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, good afternoon, not yet good evening. Well, wherever you are, I am going to share my slides soon. My name is Suppot Ketopakan. First of all, let me introduce who Dow is. Dow is a global material science company operating on more than 31 countries. And we are selling into a number of markets, including infrastructure, packaging, mobility, consumer care, or industrial solution. Packaging is one of our major pillars of business. That's why I think if we move to the next slide, you see that Dow have committed to sustainability. And this has been in our DNA for, I think, it's more than 30 years now. We start launching the first 1995 sustainability goal within Dow, and it has evolved until we have a 2025 sustainability goal. Every 10 years we renew our goal, and the latest commitment that we have is that we want to protect the climate change to become the carbon neutral company by 2050. At the same time, as one of the responsible plastic producer in the world, we also commit to stop the waste and also want to close the loop for recyclability. How are we gonna do that? The 4 pillars of plastic circularity that we are trying to do is, the first one is design for recyclability, and this is one of the key pillars that we have. And at the same time, we also think that if we want to complete the plastic circularity loop, you also need to have some mechanical recycling part, and you need to have some feedstock recycling, or somebody called chemical recycling technology, in order to take all type of plastic to recycle. At the same time, in order to reduce some of the fossil fuel, you need to have some renewable feedstock to produce the new plastic. So these are the 4 pillars for Dow, so that we could complete the plastic circularity. When you talk about plastic packaging, one thing that everybody has to admit is that we expect a lot from our packaging, from both brand owner, from both consumer, and along the value chain. For example, the product display and design. If you are the brand owner, of course, your packaging, you need it to stand out, and you want to represent whatever you want to convey to the consumer. So your packaging need to look glossy, or at least if this is a stand-up pouch, it needs to stand up in shape. This has a printability that you can print all of your message. At the same time, the integrity of packaging is very important. This is one key pillar of the function of packaging. What does it mean for integrity of packaging? You need to have the balance of the stiffness and the toughness. On the seal itself, if you drop a pack, you don't expect it to leak. Or when during the transportation, you also do not expect your packaging to leak at all. So at the same time, if it is too difficult to open, it's also from the aging society. Sometimes some people may not be able to use scissors or the cutting tools. So some easy to open is another function that you need to have it for your packaging function. And last but not least, some of other functional properties like the oxygen or water vapor barrier properties. You also want your packaging to be able to create some oxygen barrier or water vapor barrier to protect the product within your packaging itself. So these are the functions that normally when you design for packaging, you need to have it. But there are some kind of conflict between the function and the recyclability itself. Okay, the next generation of recyclability, you need to have the sustainable packaging. And in this case, what does it mean for sustainable packaging? Your packaging need to be recyclable. The previous slide, when you want to have the complete function of your packaging, one type of plastic alone would not be able to perform all function that you expect. So if you have different type of plastic and you combine it together, so-called lamination, then those kind of multi-layer plastic cannot be recycled because it comes from different type of plastic. Normally, thermoplastic like polyethylene or polypropylene, if you collect it and you melt it, you could recycle it by itself. But if you have several types of plastic laminate together, that recyclability will be the issues. At the same time, you need to have the cost competitiveness, and you need to protect the integrity of the product inside. Those will be the key function of the next generation of the plastic packaging. So within Dow, I think we need to achieve all of those requirements of the consumer in order to achieve the next generation of packaging. So rather than we have to use multi-layer material, Dow is trying to design polyethylene so that it could be able to perform and conduct all of the function that required by consumers. So the monomaterial design is the first thing that Dow tried to do. And so far today, we have a few success stories already in place in Thailand, in Korea, in China, and also in Europe, of course. And those kind of monomaterial that we are talking about is the Tentaframe BOPE, the bi-oriented polyethylene. And when you have this kind of glossy packaging, you need to have some PET or OPP laminate together with polyethylene to achieve this kind of functionality for the printability and the glossy, the gloss of the packaging itself. But with TFBOPE products or materials, you would be able to achieve those functionality by using only polyethylene. At the same time, we still have this material on the right-hand side that I have shown here. These are some of the sealing materials that we would ensure the integrity of the sealing on the proper sealing material, you would be able to drop it from some expected height. For example, some 10 meters height is kind of a test that is being conducted by a lot of brand owners. Having said that, mono material alone today still may be a problem because, as I mentioned in the previous slide, that there are so many functions that people expect from the packaging. So sometimes you still need to use some of other material to laminate together. In that case, there also have another materials. We call it the compatibilizer for barrier film, especially the oxygen barrier properties. I think today you may use nylon, you may use EVOH, and we can use this retain product in order to make the multi-material compatibilize to each other, and it can be recycled. So these are some new technology that are introduced into the market in order to make the design for recyclability available. This is some of the success story that we have in China and in Korea, that we use the Tentaframe BOPE. In China, we use it in the laundry detergent packaging. So in the past, this material, they are multi-layer, multi-type of material, laminate together. But today, with TF BOPE, we can use only polyethylene to make this material. And this, once you collect it into the recycle center, it can be recycled. And in Korea, there is another brand called Suwasu. They also use TF BOPE so that they can make it recyclable. In Thailand, we have worked with a rice manufacturer called CP International. And if you are Thai, I think the Royal Umbrella brand is quite popular in Thailand. In the past, this material, they use CPP laminate with PE, and we have helped CPI to change that into all PP material. At the same time, the latest packaging that we help them is to also reduce the thickness of the material itself from 110 micron to be 90 micron. So you use less material. You also have the lower carbon footprint when you use lower material as well. At the same time, I think Dow Thailand has worked with a number of partners to set up the drop point infrastructure so that we can collect back those kind of the rice bag to be recycled further. These are some examples of the monomaterial that we have, the success story in Thailand. And when I talk about retain, this is some kind of a cross-section material that film that you don't use retain if you have multi-material combined together. Once you recycle it, you can see a lot of gel and people will not like it. They will not use it. But if you have retain, all of the gel will be compatibilized between the different material to each others. So if we talk about only design for recyclability, I think those are some new technology that I'll have, but we think that you also need to complete the recyclability by doing some mechanical recycle. The problem of mechanical recycle is that when you collect back the waste, it needs to be very clean, and you need to separate all of the material from each other very well. So in Dow, I think we have worked with the waste collector combined with our technology to produce some new mechanical recycle PCR, post-consumer recycle resin. And we already have a success case being used in China and also in Thailand. The success case I'm talking about is the wrapping film for this kind of shrink wrap happen in China and Thailand. On the feedstock recyclability, as I mentioned, some of the mechanical recycle, there are some limitation because of the dirtiness of the plastic itself. So you cannot mechanical recycle everything, and feedstock recycling will be the key. And Dow in Europe already announced the partnership with Phoenix to perform the pyrolysis oil so that we can bring back the plastic waste into pyrolysis plant and change it back to naphtha in order to change it to the feedstock. Mura is another company that Dow is working with in Europe with a different technology, but on the chemical recycle itself as well. Last but not least, I think renewable feedstock is another pillar that Dow want to focus on. When we talk about renewable feedstock, is the feedstock that we get it from the nature, so that we could be able to reduce the carbon footprint. And in Europe, we have used the tar oil from the paper industry in order to create some polyethylene. So I will conclude what I have discussed about on the recyclability of the plastic here. I would say that in order to design for recyclability, we need to have the right technology. At the same time, your packaging need to also meet the consumer expectation. Nobody want to pay more and still want to retain the similar functionality. So it's a real challenge in the industry today, but I think Dow have offered quite a few of the solutions. I would like to stop my presentation here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kun Supot, for the very nice presentation and then for summing up your key message. So unfortunately, Kun Supot will have to leave for about an hour, but he will come back for the Q&A session. So in case any of the audience here has some question for Kun Supot, please write in the chat and then we will collect it for him and then he will come and answer later.
Thank you.
Okay. So after hearing Dow Chemicals product and technologies and then some success stories, we will zoom out a little bit to understand the concept of design for recycling a little bit more. So we have today Clara, a researcher from the OCO Institute, who will tell us about the design for recycling concept and the paper that Clara has recently published as part of the CAPC project. So just in case some of you have not had a chance to read this publication, you can see the link in the chat and then you can go through it later. Okay, so Clara, if you're ready, please.
Thank you very much. Can you see my slides?
Yes,
Coming
can
up.
see.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, for listening, for coming, and I'm now doing a little, as Sarah said, a wrap up of the concept that we are talking about now in this session. Dividing the design for recycling term in its terms, we obtain the design, which is an early life cycle step, and the recycling, or rather the recyclability. And this is a later life cycle step. So we speak of a design principle here that includes the end of life considerations at the design, so in a very early life cycle stage. And the designers play a very important role in this concept, as they have to ask the question and inform themselves about the what happens with the product or packaging that I'm designing at the end of life. And will it be collected? Will it be sorted? How is the concrete recycling system dealing with the material that I want to use? So this is the mindset behind the concept. And design for recycling is based on a broad understanding of recyclability, which considers which contains 5 considerations. First, there is a collection system in place. Second consideration is that it should be identifiable in sorting and match one of the output fractions of the sorting. For example, the rigid packaging a third consideration is if there is an industrial scale recycling facility already available today, but not in the future, but still in place today. And the fourth consideration is that the item has a high share of recyclable material. For example, the label will not be recycled. And if there are also no recycling incompatibilities, for example, certain adhesives, multi-layers or biodegradable mixes, they can also not be recycled as a full material. So this is the content of recyclable material. And the last, I already mentioned the last point, which concerns the recycling incompatibilities. And I will illustrate these points now on the following example. So we see here some pictures of bottles, and we see that they have different caps. The material is HDPE, and we have the bottle, which is PET. So two different types of polymers. And with regards to the 5 considerations for recyclability, are they collected? So yes, it's a check, and for even in manual sorting. Second consideration on the sorting, and there we see a very important point on the separation of the caps and the bottles, and the remaining ring is more difficult. So if there wasn't the ring, but for automatic, if there wasn't the ring, it's more easy to sort the caps and the bottles. The bottles are being shredded, and they are divided through their density in a wind sift, and the caps with the rings are recyclable according to the definition in an automated sorting, but not in a manual sorting. With regards to the third consideration, the recycling of PET is very common. And with regards to the content of recyclable material, this is also very high for the PET bottles. And when we ask about the recycling incompatibilities, the bottles are also quite good, provided that the label is, for example, not made from PVC. So this is the type of considerations that you do when you try to evaluate the recyclability of a certain item. I've some other examples here, and over 100 design for recycling guidelines were evaluated in a current EU project. So here are 2 of them. And this is the example for a tray on the right-hand side and for a bottle on the left-hand side. So design for recycling guidelines can either be a matrix or a do and don't format or a list, a checklist. And they can also have different levels of details. For example, the barrier criteria for PET bottles are already very detailed. Where we see on the right-hand side for the tray, it's rather superficial, but still very important aspects with regards to the color, for example, the labels, inks, and prints. However, it's very important that design for recycling guidelines are product and polymer specific and might additionally be sector specific. For example, for LDPE foils, it's very important whether they are used in agriculture or whether they are used in packaging. So this is about the considerations and the examples for design for recycling guidelines. There's a small excursus on design for reuse. It's also possible to think of this term because the reuse in the waste hierarchy is should be preferred over the recycling. And so if there is any possibility for using reusable packaging, for example, this should always be preferred over the recyclability aspects, and so to really prevent material becoming a waste which cannot be used afterwards again. I'm now coming to the limitations of design for recycling. There are 2 kinds of limitations. One has to deal with the focusing, because this is relevant on 2 scales. Either a narrow or broad perspective can be taken. Both are needed in order to understand and tackle the problem. For example, I've shown the material cycle at the beginning, but I also talked about the barrier layer for PET bottles. So this is one the barrier is very specific for the PET bottles, whereas our considerations around the life cycle of a product is very broad, and we have to bring in these both perspectives. Another focusing problem is that our upstream and downstream differentiation. So upstream is on the first aspects of the cycle, of the material cycle, and downstream is rather the waste management phase, and design for recycling is an upstream measure. It's implemented at the design phase, but it requires downstream knowledge, for example, on the material flows in the waste. And so it's difficult to keep in mind and differentiate about these two perspectives on this product that we try to make more recyclable. With regards to trade-offs, I named two here, but there can be even more. Almost every measure, also the design for recycling, has trade-offs, and arguments need to be weighed separately for specific examples. For example, the environmental performance of a packaging might be better if it's not recyclable or lighter but unrecyclable material, and this reduces the waste volume, but maybe not per entity, but in total. So this is when I earlier said we have to balance and weight the criteria product specific. This is always a question of detail, and this should not be forgotten. So what else is there? We have recyclability is a very important characteristic of packaging. We have heard that already also from the Dow representative, and very many global initiatives have the aim to improve recyclability. For example, there are the golden design rules. There is the new plastics economy global commitment, and signed by globally very important companies. And so there is a lot going on, and the companies are also gathering under such commitments and in their association to increase recyclability. And most recently, one of these consortium, the European Circular Plastic Alliance, has published a new updates for their design for recycling plans. The EU Circular Plastic Alliance is a multi-stakeholder network, and that like to help to bridge the gap between the supply and demand for recycled plastics. And this, of course, if you want to recycle more, you have to make the material and products more recyclable. So the design for recycling is a very important concept in this Circular Plastic Alliance. They have updated their work plan, and I'm now presenting some of these aspects. It has been in September this year, so very new, and they updated in terms of their publication of the formation of dedicated product teams. They will develop a design for recycling guidelines for 26 products. I'm coming to this on the next slide. They also will translate the design for recycling guidelines into European norms through the CEN, the European Standard Organization. They expect an official request for standardization for these packaging items. So overall, this shall ensure that the recyclability in Europe increases. Besides that, they have also published a monitoring system for recycled plastics. This is not so much the focus of today's session, but might be also interesting for you to see and to access through the link on my presentation slides. As I said, the Circular Plastic Alliance will develop design for recycling guidelines for 26 products, and these are these products. They're coming from 4 different sectors. They have various polymers, and as I said, the 26 products, they are very specific. We see that they even have overlaps in the polymers. For example, they have the flexible packaging, LDPE packaging, also, and they will have a separate guideline. This is what I want to say. They have a separate guideline for the flexible packaging under LDPE, but they will also have a separate design for recycling guideline for the LDPE mulch films and so on under the sector of agriculture. So this is very specific. These guidelines are not yet out, but they are expected throughout the next year, I can say. So how to do this? How to develop design for recycling guidelines? First of all, this has been done by the European Circular Plastic Alliance already last year. The products for which the guidelines will be developed should be selected. There are also their selection criteria published, and you'll see this in my backup slides. They should first of all now describe realistic end of life and waste management scenario for the chosen product, and they have to think about together with the recyclers how to improve the end of life and waste management for the chosen product, and this is the task for the dedicated product team. So they will have 26 product teams consisting of upstream and downstream expertise to decide on these 2 steps 2 and 3. The next step is to develop the criteria for collections, separation of parts, and recyclability. They are doing, let's say, a cross-check with the criteria of recyclability that I presented in the beginning. And of course, then it's also important that industry makes use of the new standard. There are various questions, reflection questions during this evaluation, development of the standards. And they also concern, as I said, the criteria, but also the function of the product and the material composition. You can look at the questions when really working on such guidelines and development. So please feel free to use these questions then. And now coming to my summary, the guideline, I really pointed out on this, should be product and material specific. We have as a next point that there already exist various standards and guidelines. We expect 26 more, and these are the priority products for Europe. So it can also be priority products for the Southeast Asian region. So it's very important to also learn from what is there and do not reinvent the wheel. So it's also advertised to not only increase recyclability and implement design for recycling, but also to combine this with recycled content target. We heard of that the last public event. We have some recommendations from European undertakings. So there should be, for example, the avoidance of different guidelines for the same product. This will confuse the market rather than helping to increase recyclability. And also the updating is important because, for example, new technologies might come up that make the recyclability be, as it depends on the recycling technologies. If there is any update in the technology, this should also lead to an update of the guideline. We have 2 more recommendations, and this is more generally to focus on the domestic cycles. So the input for recycling, for example, should be domestically sourced. If Europe now increases its recyclability, it's also combined with targets that the input for recycling should be sourced in Europe. So they are focusing on their region, and this is also recommended for other regions. And finally, as I said, upstream and downstream measures, for example, the increase in numbers of recycling facilities, and of course, the increase of recyclability should be implemented in parallel. This is as for my presentation. Thank you very much. And I'm also with you to answer additional questions. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Clara. Okay, so actually there are quite some questions in the chat, but we will be answering that after the next speaker. Okay, so thank you very much, Clara, for telling us about more detail about the concept of the D4R. Okay, and then some key aspects that we have to consider when implementing the D4R. Okay, especially for the partner countries that CAPC project is working on in Thailand, Malaysia, and then Indonesia. Clara briefly mentioned about the previous event that we organized, which is on recycled content. So in case some of you would like to know more, we actually have already uploaded the recording on YouTube already. We will post the link in the chat. So in case you would like to know more. Okay, because again, recycled content is also very connected to D4R, right? Okay, and now to the next speaker. We very pleased to have with us today Dr. Betiana Sundardik from the Head of Communications and Press Central Agency Packaging Register from Germany, who will be telling us more about the Institute's work. How did it start? Okay, what are the lessons learned or messages for especially the policymakers or businesses who would like to move forward with the topic? So Dr. Bettina, if you're ready, please take it away. Thank you.
And I'm pretty sure there's one on beverage containers. I think for some of the beverage containers, we could also think of instead of using, for example, EPS for hot drinks, we could also think of establishing the reusable cups system. This is on a very good way in Europe. This is, I think, also the reusable takeaway packaging trend started with the cups. So I would go for the reusable cups in the with regards to the cups exactly, and for other packaging types, I can refer to the to this JRC study, which I can also paste the link into the chat.
Thank you, Clara. Okay, so one more. Okay, what about how about the quality of the material after recycling? How many cycles of recycling is possible?
Maybe this could be answered by us both, but
any of you is fine.
Depends on what you what material you start the recycling process. Yeah, that's what I tried to make clear. It is really It is really important that, or it is much more better if packaging that their materials are monomaterials and not composite materials. And yeah, what we see is you have to consider a lot of questions and topics around or along the whole value chain. It starts with that what the company who brings the packaging onto the market, which materials they choose, and then after that, what the consumer do with this packaging, if it is separable, if he separates the different things or not. And then if the each material is a good material, for example, if you think about plastic, polypropylene, polyethylene, then you have much more higher chances to get a recycling product at the end, which is also a product you can use for other applications. If not, it is much more difficult, and that is what we see at the moment. We have a substitution from packaging of good materials. They are plastic, or their material as plastic, but because of the public discussion, a lot of companies think it would be better to create a paper packaging, but in reality, it is not really a paper packaging, which is developed by monomaterials. It is a mixture, it is a composite, and that brings new problems. And yeah, coming to the beginning, it is really important to think about the product which comes to the waste and which comes to the sorting and recycling plants. If it is a good material and it is a singular material, then it is much more easier to get a good recycling material at the end and to bring that material to other applications.
Thank you very much. So maybe we can go to two more questions. Okay, but very short answer, please. How does the CPA D4R differ from well-established D4R regulations coming from the industry?
I
Who
can
would like
take
to
that.
answer this one?
I can take this one. You know, the Circular Plastic Alliance is totally established by the European industry. So all these working groups, the dedicated product teams, the lead of the Circular Plastic Alliance is effectively coming from the industry, because they pledged 2 years ago to reach the goals that the European Commission set. They said, please give pledges, and if you do not do, we will do it mandatorily and legally. So as the industry did not want to do that, they established these working groups, and so they are, of course, they will take up whatever there is already in the market and what has been established. So I think there's no really differences in the D4R from the Circular Plastic Alliance that we expect, and it will take up the learnings and existing guidelines already in place. However, it should be said that no design for recycling is mandatorily implemented so far. So if there is the D4R regulation, it's just you know, companies that pledge themselves for using those D4Rs, or that set themselves the goal for using them. But it's not yet, as I said, legally binding to use D4R. However, in Germany, it is legally binding to assess the recyclability through the standard that Ms. Sonderdiek explained earlier.
Yeah, but it's right what you say, and that is what I told you at the beginning, or what I tried to tell you at the beginning. The minimum standard is the starting point, and it is addressed to the PROs to create financial incentives. Yeah, recyclable packaging should be cheaper in system participation than non-recyclable packaging, but that is not mandatory. It is an incentive to bring the companies in the position to think about their packaging and to start this process. And what we could see since the beginning, and since we first published the minimum standard, there are a lot of dynamics, and a lot of companies think about their packaging, but at the end there are a lot of things to understand in this moment and to consider. And if you think about the substitution of plastic and now the development of new packaging which are non-recyclable, you see there are a lot of themes to be worked on. And I think it is a longer way, it needs some time, but the start, we start, and we see a lot of companies and also a lot of other institutions over the whole value chain, they are thinking about this topic.
Okay, thank you very much. Due to the time limitations, I have about 4 questions left, but we do not have time anymore. So I would like to invite the speakers, if you have some time, if you can answer in the chat, and then would be nice to know that, yeah, we can go through it in reading. Okay, thank you very much. And now I would like to move on to the next speaker, Mr. Michael Schmitz from the Jockey Group. He's the head of marketing, communication, and sustainability officer. Mr. Michael Schmitz, if you are ready, please take it away.
Yes, good morning altogether, or better, yes, good morning from Germany today. Hello. I hope you can see my presentation. Is it okay?
Yes, very well.
And that's fine. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome here from Marienheide in the near of Cologne in Germany. And my name is Michael Schmitz, and I'm the head of marketing and communications and sustainable officer for the whole Jockey Group. And I'm very pleased to be able to present our Jockey Eco Design and the initiative Race the New Green in the following impulse lecture of in my slides. First of all, I would like to brief you some information about the Jockey Group. I hope it runs. Hello? Hello?
And
Yes,
the
we
slide is
hear
not
you.
changing.
Yeah, it's not changing. Yeah, I see that. I don't know the problem.
Maybe you switch off and then share again. I mean, like.
Yes, a moment, please. Mm-hmm. Now it works. So, first of all, I would like to give you a short introduction about the Jockey Group, who we are and where we're located and what we're doing. Jockey was founded in 1968 by Josef Kemmerich and his sons. And
sorry, Mr. Schmitz, to interrupt you, but the slide is not up.
It is not up. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
We can see you.
Once again.
But not the slide here.
Now we must see the slides. It's correct?
Yes.
Yes,
try it once
we
again.
do.
Try it once again in the presentation mode. No, that's the presentation mode now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And now you see it. Now it runs.
Yeah, everything is okay now.
That's fine. That's fine. Here was, and here you see some figures about the Jockey Group. We have 15 plants in 12 countries, and we have about 2,200 employees from 43 nations, and we deliver 8,000 customers in nearly 86 countries. And we are located first of all in the northern hemisphere of our planet. And the next slide shows you our products we produce, and here you see that our main focus is regarding the rigid plastic packaging. These are buckets and tubes, and these are products for the food and non-food industry. We produce buckets and foods from 150 millimeters up to 45 liters. And there is another part in our portfolio. This is the individual part, and means that if customer wants to have individual packaging, we produce individual solutions for themselves. A smaller scale we have in our portfolio is our caps and closures, but really a small one, so that the most of all is the rigid plastic packaging. And we produce in a smaller scale as well technical products, technical parts for the automotive industry, for example. And we have an own program for furnitures and cabinets, like mirrors and bathroom cabinets. But this is only a small part of our product portfolio. 90% of all we produce are the rigid plastic packagings in the injection molding process. Yes, we can really say that sustainable is part of our DNA and has a longer history. 1991, we manufactured our first packaging with post-consumer recyclates from the waste house collection for an international brand owner in the construction chemistry. And we optimized our packaging along the German packaging law, and packaging made of PCR were part of our portfolio since the time. But the demand for sustainable packaging remained very small during this time in the last 30 years. 2020, we launched our Jockey Eco concept for the whole group, and this eco concept is consisting of 3 pillars, and these 3 pillars is the first one is the eco strategy, which stays for the basic in all matters. That means that we try to become sustainable in all matters all over the group, becoming from that starts with energy, waste, and materials. The next part is the next pillar is the eco resources. That means that we look for secondary raw materials and renewable materials, and where it's not possible to work with renewable or secondary raw materials, we stay at virgin raw materials, but raw materials which are circular and will be able to be technically recycled. And the last, but I think the most important pillar is for us, that's eco-design. That means that we have we focus on our products that they're really suitable for a circular economy, and later more to this part. But a successful mission starts with insight and awareness. With this conviction, we achieve our goals faster and very often with passion. And I think passion is a very important part to see what is happening on our planet. And this is what we see here. Thank you for the graphic from the WWF. Because when we started our company in 1968, the world's population numbered just only 3.5 billion people on this planet. In the last 50 years, not only has the world population far more than doubled, it has also extremely exposed its resource requirements and thus also the waste products from this process. With non-reversible damage to our resources, our climate and our biodiversity, it will continue if we continue as we are doing today. And so we must be aware of this certainty. If you have a look in another graphic from the circularity graph, it shows us that we have an unbelievable number of resources that we need in our society of about 100 billion gigatons. And from this 100 billion gigatons, only 8.6 gigatons were really recycled. And this is really a part which we have to change. And the overshoot day is happening early every year, and the world's population is consuming more and more planets. We need to change our thinking as soon as possible. And when we become more aware of this fact, we develop more and in this very important mission and circularity. So we have to focus on circularity. Looking ahead, the understanding should now be that we must act and focus on the goals ahead.
Excuse me, can you please mute your microphone? I think somebody has the mic on.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, and this is our mission at Jockey, that we think it is very important to switch over to from a linear resource economy to a circular resource economy as quickly as possible. Fast, post-consumer recyclates are high performance raw materials as well. We successfully produced the first packaging, as I mentioned before, in 1991, and used packaging is a raw material and not a waste. So this is under our understanding, and this is our assault when we work with eco-design and with resources, to say that we have to look for a new economy in the future. Packaging waste is for us raw material. But what does it mean? And we think we have to speed up the circular economy, and we have to make things, we have to create new ways, and we have to speed up this way. First of all, we have to see that secondary raw materials must become a trend. This is not a trend on our planet, in our economy. We always want to look for new materials, for new raw materials, and secondary raw materials have no place. And that is very important to make them en vogue, to become here a trend. And we see this now in Germany, that it's coming more and more, that people look for gray plastic packaging. I heard it before, and this is very important, that decisions for packaging must be according to objective facts. We heard it before, that now we are changing plastic packaging for multi-component packaging, or packaging from cardboard with plastics, and this cannot be the right way. And we think that it is very important here to find decisions which are really calling the objective facts. What we see as well is we look for waste infrastructures and regulations We must have further waste infrastructures, maybe in the case of EPR systems, and regulations have the advantage that they gives planning security for all members of the value chain. And this is what we hope and what we want to support in the future, that these waste infrastructures will develop more and more. Very important is as well that we find incentives for people, for companies who work with secondary raw materials. That is a good example for other customers who say, yes, I would like to change my product from virgin material to secondary raw materials, and it helps to speed up the process. Yes, let's have a look for the Jockey Eco Design for rigid packaging. And before we start, I would like to show you a slide of strategy elements we developed on the roundtable of eco design for plastic packaging in 2014. And these strategies were a kind of a blueprint for us to develop our eco design elements. First of it, it's the design for optimized resource use. We should design packaging so that it reduces the use of natural resources and consequently the carbon footprint. The second one is design for sustainable sourcing, and this is also very important because we should design packaging in such a way as to ensure that the materials are sourced sustainable. The third one is design for environmentally sound use. We should design packaging in ways that support responsible use through reducing littering, the ability to be easily portioned, safely resealed, and completely emptied in order to avoid product waste. Very important, and we heard it before from the Dow representative. Yes, there are so many things and so many functions packaging has to fulfill for the foods and for the non-food products, so that we really have to look for the possibility what is really makeable in this way. And the next part is, and I come later to this part, we have to look for a maximum of possibilities of packaging. The fourth one is design for recycling. We should design packaging in such a way as to enable high quality recycling of the packaging materials after the end of the packaging. And that was a blueprint for our Jockey Eco concept. And here you see some products from us and 6 very important parts for us where we look for when we develop our eco design. First, we look for a circular raw material. We heard it before. We must have an infrastructure. We must have material streams for the mechanical recycling, and this is why we look at the moment. And today we work with polypropylene for all our products. That doesn't mean that we will not look for other renewable materials, but therefore we have to say that we're not quite sure that we find the right renewable material at the moment because of the specific characteristics and the mechanical characteristics of polypropylene. And on the other hand, we want to discuss the more and more use of biomass products or renewable products for all our products in our daily life. And I think it may be there will be coming up more and more problems regarding the biodiversity and as well I think the climate. And this is what we have to discuss first. What is the right circular raw material? At the moment it is for us PP. The next one is that we only use PP, and that was a lesson we learned in 1990s when we had the German packaging law. And at this time we worked with polyethylene and with polypropylene together. And this is what we changed afterwards. And when we developed within the last 30 years our products, we choose only polypropylene. We have the possibility with polypropylene to make it more efficient. That means we had more lightweighting, and we have the possibility to produce all the components of our packaging: the lid, the handles, the buckets, the tubes, everything, and inclusive the decoration as kind of a IML mold label. We produce it all of polypropylene, so that we are technical. From the technical view, we are full recyclable, only from the technical view. The next part is material efficiency, and material efficiency is an easy explanation. With PP, we're able to reduce our weights of the packaging. And when we see our packaging in 1990s and look for them now in 2021, we could optimize our packaging up to 40% regarding the weights. Another part is the fixation of the components, and you see it, for example, with the temper evident here. Every component of our packaging is fixed so that it does not get into the nature. We see our recommendation for customers to less coloring and decoration. Why? To receive in future better recycling, to receive a better quality, and it is better to sort and to select it in the mechanical recycling. And what another part of our eco design was to be always full drainability, or to deliver always a full drainability, so that we have a big lid, and that every end consumer or commercial consumer is able to take out all the goods in full, so that we have further advantages in the later following mechanical recycling, because every good that stays in the packaging will cause costs in the recycling process. And yes, for a consumer, it is better to be able to receive all the products he buy before. Maximum packaging benefit means that we look for our packaging, that they give them a further benefit, that people and that customers, that the end consumer or commercial consumer are able to use that packaging for any other things he needs in his private life or something else. It can be that he use it for storages, that he use it in the kitchen again. And this is what we see. What is very important, that the packaging has not only one life, that it is possible to give them several lives. And after this, the lives are over, it comes back into the household collection or the commercial collection, and comes back into the circle. Yes, and now let's come to our campaign Grace in New Green. At the moment, we are at site in Europe, and with two campaigns. The first is Grace the New Green. That's the Grace in New Green campaign. We were launched in 2017. We tried to convince our non-food customer to substitute their buckets and packaging from virgin material to secondary raw materials, to PCR. And now we increase and speed up this campaign once again, and we really see that more and more customers are now go in this way when they're able to do that. One word here is we are not able at the moment to deliver PCRs for in a food grade level, so that we only concentrate at the moment for the non-food industry, but we are working on PCRs which will be food grade in the middle term. Simplicity makes the value is a campaign to yes, to show that it is better to stay at a monomaterial packaging with a material efficiency and with monomaterial. Only to say that it is better to reduce the weights and to stay, if it is possible, only with one material, because it is the easiest way afterwards to in the following recycling process to use this packaging and to bring them back into the circularity. Yes, and here are some examples. What you see here is an 18-liter bucket for chemistry, and we changed this bucket on the left side. The bucket was full, produced with virgin polymers, polypropylene, and then the customer changed for the bottom of the bucket itself to recyclate, to PCR. And the handle is made of virgin material that has something to do with the enormous strings the handle has to deliver. And on the customer's request, that the lid was also produced in a new virgin green material. The product is now certified by the RAL. It's RAL certified by the RAL institution, and it proves that the material is really coming from the household selection. In Germany, it is the yellow bag and the yellow bin, and this is very important to certify it. And I think the really important part to do that, because we want to show that these materials really come from the waste, from the waste which was collected, and not from the post-industrial recyclates. We often see that materials like that will be implemented in packaging like this. Another one is this one here, and if you combine both packagings, the left hand, the same as full virgin PP virgin material, and on the left hand you see the bucket itself is produced by 100% PCR, and the label is a PP in-mode label, so a homogeneous packaging for both, and it is technical, and from the technical view, it is full recyclable. And the same here, the lid is made of virgin material, and the lid is as well, on the customer's request, made from virgin material. But as more and more you find more customers who look for this way and look for sustainable materials, and that is very nice to see, because we work on this change since 30 years. And now I think we see a wave which is coming up in Germany, especially in Germany, that more and more customers we look for the gray way to use the gray material from PCR.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
it's a very interesting presentation, but we're running out of time a little bit. It would be great if you could come to an end.
That was my last.
Okay. Sorry.
That was my last slide. And perhaps in one word, at least, we are able to produce 100% of PCR in our products. That means we are also able to produce the handle and the lid as well in PCR. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schmitz. So for giving us the very full picture, okay, in developing eco-design packaging. We have some questions from the chat, but we will now.
Hello.
I think we lost Sarah.
Yeah, I think we lost Sarah, so I will take over from now. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. We will go forward for the question and answer after our last presentation from Ibu Wida. She is one of the product design manager. Ibu Wida, if I'm wrong, please correct me. from Danone Aqua Indonesia. So Ibu Wida, please, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Gita. So please kindly help to upload the presentation because I cannot do it at the moment. Yeah, good morning and good afternoon, everybody here. I'm Wida Octavianti from Danone Water Indonesia. I'm in charge of packaging development. So today I would like to share our practice or how we apply the design for recycling in our company, specifically in Aqua. Yeah, Aqua is one of the water brand owned by Danone, and it is, I think, quite popular in Indonesia. Okay, go to the next please. Yeah, so as a Danone, our ambition and guiding principle is very clear that we would like to deliver nutritious and also high quality food and drinks to our consumer using the 100% circular packaging. Keeping material in use and out of the nature. And to do that, actually, there are three guiding principles. Number one is about the brand. So we always bring the brand together with all the effort that we will do. So the brand will do the pilot innovative solution that will allow us to raise consumer awareness and help guide their engagement in a circular economy. So that is the role of the brand. The second one is a partnership, collaboration, because now this issue is becoming very complex. We cannot solve by ourselves. It has to be done together. So collaboration is in the cornerstone of our success. And then the third one is doing the innovation on the circularity and also include many parties here. So bring the inclusion to the social or community. So basically, this is the guiding principle, and also, and then the next one, please. And we have approach here, three-step approach. The first one is we design the packaging for circularity by having 100% reusable, recyclable, and also compostable packaging. And of course, we eliminate the packaging that we do not need, during our design of the product. And then the second one, reuse, recycle, and composting in practice, because recyclable, as shared before, cannot only talking about the design material, but also how it is recycled in practice. And then the third one is we try to integrate the recycled materials into our product, and at the same time we try to boost the renewable materials. So these are all the approach that we do. So we try to keep the packaging material, the plastic, as long as possible in our system, and then avoid to be a polluter for the nature. So that is the principle. The next, yeah. So in Aqua in Indonesia, we have a bijak berplastik. What do you call it? Tagar is what? Yeah, bijak berplastik. So it consists of three pillars here, and all the pillars has to go together. First is about collection, how we collect more than it is produced by 2025. This is our target in moving forward. The second one is about education, how to broaden the education from the school, for the children, for the community, because this is very important to make sure that the collection is also happen. And then the last one is innovation, to provide the choice for the consumer using the packaging that is recyclable or compostable. So we have a target here that by 2025 we can use recycled material at least 50% in our portfolio. Okay, so this is on Aqua, and actually it is not new for Aqua because Aqua has pioneered recyclable packaging since decades ago. So here our founder, Mr. Tirto Utomo, in 1983, launched the Aqua Gallon 19 liter. So this one is actually a reusable product. So the concept of reusable is actually already been there. And then in 1993, actually, Aqua pioneered the recycle program, what we call as Aqua Peduli. And this, by that time, the program collect the plastic bottle. We form what we call it as a recycling unit, bottle recycling unit, to collect the Aqua PET bottle at the time. It's continue now, and then I think the RBU or the recycled business unit is getting more and more. So that is the how we use this recyclable since the past, and it's continue. The spirit is continue till now, and then we also do it now. Go to the next. So talking about recyclable packaging and design for recycle, it cannot be splitted. Actually, it is a system. So we design a system so that it is connected each other, because and it cannot go alone. For example, here when we design a product, of course we design a product to solve the consumer problem, and but we need to check whether the packaging that we design, what will be the next, what will be the collection system, sorting system, and recycling system. Because even though we design a packaging that is recyclable, but the next process is not work or it is weak, then it is not effective. But in reverse, if we only run the collection, sorting, and recycling, but the packaging itself cannot be recycled, it also cannot work. So it has to be run together. And at the end, when this system is running, we can think further how to include the recycled material into our packaging. So this is the mechanism that we do. This is the principle on how we develop something. So yeah, probably in this presentation, it's not only focused on design for recycle, but also how to use this recycled material. So that I use it as a live example in the next page. Okay, so in designing a product or a packaging, we follow this design thinking guideline, our principle. Think that the product that we will create, that we will design, has to be desirable by the consumer. And then after that, we check whether it is feasible, and lastly, it's viable. So this is I think this is a common approach in almost all the design process. But here I would like to share the example when we develop a 100% recycled bottle for Aqua, where it is launched in 2019. Yeah, it's a lot of challenge actually. So we can start with the material itself. Yeah, because thanks to the previous effort to build the recycling business unit, so that we already have the at least the collected PET material from our bottle, from the beverage bottle that exists in Indonesia, not only Aqua. So the condition is that the recycled material is varied actually. It's not homogeneous, and sometimes the quality is up and down. So this is quite a challenge for using it in 100% recycled. Probably if it's only 5% or 10%, it's not quite feasible. But when it goes into 100%, then the challenge is really big here. We have to make sure that non-intended chemical material is not exist or follow the rules, the regulation from the government as well as from Danone. It's very tight regulation. We have to strict control the process. Either it is from the sorting in RBU, in the recycler, as well as in the converter before going into our plant to be blown. It's also talking about the color, how to make sure that the color is meeting our requirement. I think it's a good learning from previous presentation where it is a green is our gray is our green. Probably this is the next, but at the moment it's also quite hard actually to educate the consumer to accept all the variability. So that's why it's still a challenge, mostly when we launched this product last year, 2 years ago. And then to optimize the recyclability, the decision is to go without label. But now how to put the mandatory requirement from the government, from the FDA, because we need to have a lot of words putting into the bottle to meet this requirement. So it is embossed on the bottle. So it's quite need a quite strict process in order to clearly emboss the wording. So that is the next challenge. And we also have a challenge from the channel, because without label on the bottle, how to put channel requirements such as barcode. Yeah, so we start with putting some what do you call it, barcode or channel information on the neck tag, but it's not sustained because neck tag made from paperboard sometimes is missing or easy to remove. Yeah, so we have to change the labeling system, the decoration into the putting the barcode into the top of our cap. The next one is compatibility, because water is water. It's very clear. If something happened there, it's clearly, we cannot hide it. So that's why the compatibility between the product and also the packaging is really important here. And we have to meet the very strict requirement here. The next one is about cost and the right business model. Because currently, the fact is that the recycled material, the recycled resin is still more expensive than the virgin. Yeah, probably because of the long way to go and involving a lot of chain. So we have to play around how to create or to define the right equation so that this product can survive in the market. It can sustain in our market and still preferred by our consumer. The last one, the brand getting the product growth, and then requirement of the recycled material is also growth. So we have to make sure that we have a sustainable supply. It's not on off. It has to be continued. So this is also another challenge, how to make sure that the supply is continuous. So that's not the end, because after that we have to communicate to the consumer, how to get the right communication, and also to deliver a great experience for the consumer. Yeah, so this is a big challenge for us, but it paid off, because we can deliver the good product in the market. And this is a pilot for probably the bigger future. So this is the experience in delivering this Aqualife 100% recyclable and 100% recycled material. Okay, go to the last page. So we go with innovation, we keep innovating. This year, beyond the plastic, we also launched the returnable glass bottle. So it's already there in the past when I was a teenager. And now it is relaunched with the new spirit, returnable glass bottle. And also this year as well, we extend the 100% recyclable and 100% recycled into our main product, which is 600 milliliter. But it is still in the because we have to start small but move fast. So we started in Bali early this year. Yeah, so that's it. How we try to implement this design to recycle principle. We go together, I think, for the better world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Vida. Please stay for the next session on the Q&A. I would also like to invite Mr. Support. If you're here, please join us in the Q&A session. And then also Mr. Schmitz. Okay. I'm looking at the time now. We are approaching 4 o'clock, okay, in the Bangkok time. So we have about 3 minutes left now. I would like to ask if you would like to stay for the Q&A session. We might extend about 5 to 10 minutes only, if that's okay with the audience. Okay, so the first question we have here, I think maybe to Kun Support, how does the D4R affect the cost of production? Or to Danone Aqua later, yeah.
Well, it cannot answer this question on a kind of one-size-fits-all basis, because design for recycle may or may not affect the cost of production at all. In general, if you need to use more recycled material, because the cost of recycled material today is still more expensive than the virgin product, you may see the cost increase. Having said that, using the word design for recycle, it needs to be discussed on the case-by-case basis, because you may be able to replace some more expensive material with the less expensive material and make it recyclable.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe one more question to you is about the approach to facilitate better design for recycling in case of monomaterials in packaging.
What is your approach? Yeah, at this point of time, I would say that we have some success case for the monomaterial recycle for our packaging. Having said that, if we want to do the design for recycle approach, we need to have the meeting between the brand owner, between our converter, sit down together to look at the requirement. What would be the requirement of your packaging? And from that front, from the requirement, I think that would have quite a long list of solutions to offer. Some can offer some better solution with some higher cost, or if you want to compromise on some of the functionality, you may have the different approach as well. So again, in order to facilitate the better design for recycle, first of all, I think we need to list down all the requirements of your packaging. And then I think we can pick and choose the right material for that. That would be the short answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to go to Mr. Schmitz. Do you apply design for use principles for your PP-based products? How is it different than applying design for recycling principles? Could you give some examples, please?
No, we did we do not get out any principle in this way, but it is a normal function of customers that they use our products often. They often for a secondary use. You find them, for example, in the commercial use in canteens, for example, for foods, and as well in the commercial use of for painters for mixing their colors. And for example, by small packagings for freezing them in the for the next for the goods. There are a lot of things for the secondary use, and I don't think that we really must use a principle for this use. And I believe that the packaging itself is known for the customer, that he is really able to use it for a secondary part.
Thank you very much. Okay, and the next one go to Ms. Vida. Can you please share how you address the constantly changing, missing regulatory safety compliance for this new food contact materials?
Yeah, actually, we are working with our regulatory team to get the information on what is the requirement, and also from Danone, we also have that kind of updated requirement always, so that during the innovation process or design to recycle, we consider that as at the first place. So that is what we do normally.
Thank you very much. Okay, and this one, I think it's open to the speakers, whoever would like to pick this up. So in addition to this recycling program, can you share plans for bring your own bottle and refillable water dispenser, or are there challenges from hygiene perspective? And then on the RPET, okay, can you share how you address legality of the claim recyclability in jurisdictions, townships, rapid waste collection sorting is not existing?
Question 3 is quite interesting. Actually, we are trying to go there. We put effort there, but as you mentioned here, that hygiene is really a big challenge for us. So we are still working on it. So that is how we address the bring your own bottle. We are in the pilot, but we need to improve in order to get this hygiene problem fixed.
Okay.
And then the number 4, actually this is where the collection play a lot of roles here. We have a lot of recycling business unit. It's in 4 cities at the moment, but it's collecting from the other cities as well. And that is the formal one, but we also see a lot of non-formal business, I guess, in Indonesia, who collect the PET bottle as well as the cap. Either it is for recycled into the same product or to the open loop of the recycle.
Thank you very much. Any speakers who would like to add anything? Okay, so if not, then there's some other questions in the chat. It would be great if you could also answer some of them so we can read it in writing, okay? And then at the end, we will extract all the questions and answer that you provided onto our website as a documentation. Okay, so now comes the last part of the meeting. So I would like to wrap up this meeting once again. So today we have all the 5 speakers who come and then share with us all inspiring cases, okay, in terms of the products, the technologies, the developments in the plastic packaging, the EPR system in Germany. And then I think whether we are like producers or policymakers in Asia, there's so much that we can learn from. So thank you very much again for joining with us. And then we would also like to highlight that we have this kind of exchange every month, okay, for the next until February next year. So we will have the next one coming up in November. If you would like to join again, please, again, at the same website, you can register or share this, spread the news about this event if you think, it is useful for you. Okay, so on behalf of the organizer, we hope that you can take away something from this event. If you would like to share your feedback, okay, in how we can improve it, or if you want us to have similar exchange again, not just until February, you can also do. So please help rate our event and then share how we can improve it. Okay. We also want to highlight that all the presentations are available for download. I think there are some changes to the presentation by our speakers. We will upload later today. Okay, so Mr. Support, if you can send us your presentation again, and then also Mr. Schmitz, that would be great. And we apologize for also some technical issues at the event. Okay. And then for more details, you can visit our Green Tech Knowledge Hub. We also have our publications upload there, and then all the upcoming webinars and events. So once again, thank you very much. Please have a good evening or a good day ahead. Okay, and then we hope to see you again. Bye-bye. Thank you. สวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.